Hey guys, welcome to Investify, where we help you grow your wealth through smart investments. Today we will discuss the US debt ceiling crisis reaches breaking point. Breaking news! After weeks of negotiation, the Republicans and Democrats have finally reached an agreement in principle. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy spilled the beans, announcing that the US debt ceiling will be raised. This means we avoid a disastrous default on government bonds and prevent the global financial system from going haywire. Earlier this year, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that the US would run out of money by June 1st. But fret not. The House is set to vote on a bill this Wednesday to raise the debt ceiling. Can you believe it? It's a wild situation where the financial health of the world depends on a single rule. Welcome to 2023, folks! Let's dive in and figure out how we got into this mess. Get ready for an engaging story of political maneuvers. The debt ceiling. Let's start by understanding what the debt ceiling is all about. Simply put, it's a cap on how much debt the US government can accumulate. When the government brings in money through tax revenue but spends more on various things like healthcare, education, infrastructure, social security, and the military, they end up with a deficit. To cover this deficit, the government takes on debt by issuing bonds, which are essentially loans from investors. Here's where it gets interesting. The United States has a national debt of $31.46 trillion, and it's approaching the debt ceiling, which is the limit on how much debt the government can have. Congress needs to approve raising the debt ceiling, but it has become a contentious issue in recent years. Failing to raise the debt ceiling would have dire consequences, including a collapse on the global financial system. The US government wants to raise the debt ceiling to avoid these catastrophic effects. What's the problem? The problem with the debt ceiling is that it has become a political tool for leverage. When the government needs to raise the debt ceiling, the opposing party can use it as an opportunity to negotiate and push their own agenda. In the past, both Republicans and Democrats have forced concessions from the other party in exchange for raising the debt ceiling. With the Republicans now having control of the House, the Democrats need to negotiate in order to raise the debt ceiling. The negotiations have been ongoing since the United States hit the debt ceiling earlier this year. The Treasury has been shuffling funds to keep paying bills, but the deadline is approaching. If an agreement is not reached, it will have severe consequences for the global financial system. The negotiations. The negotiations between the Democrats and the Republicans have been ongoing. The Republicans passed the Limit Save Grow Act, a bill that will raise the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion. However, the bill also included provisions for government spending cuts of $4.5 trillion over a decade, which the Democrats opposed. Initially, President Biden refused to negotiate, but as the deadline approached, he became more open to the idea. There were still disagreements, and no concrete agreement had been reached. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced that he and President Biden had come to an agreement in principle to raise the debt ceiling. This news is seen as a positive step forward, but the bill still needs to be taken to Congress and passed. The proposed bill to raise the debt ceiling. In the proposed bill to raise the debt ceiling, the core of the deal is the suspension of the debt ceiling until January 1st, 2025. It includes some Republican provisions such as keeping non-defense spending roughly flat in the 2024 fiscal year and increasing it by 1% in the following year. The defense budget would match President Biden's proposed budget of $886 billion for the next fiscal year. The bill would also restart federal student loan payments after a pandemic-related pause. It includes rescinding about $30 billion in unspent coronavirus relief money and reducing IRS fundings by $1.4 billion. Additionally, there would be expanded work requirements for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly known as food stamps. Overall, the bill combines debt ceiling suspension for Democrats and some spending cuts for Republicans. The details of the bill are expected to be discussed further in Congress. Was a deal inevitable? Yes, a deal to raise the debt ceiling was highly likely and considered almost inevitable due to the severe consequences of a US default. The consequences of the United States defaulting on its debts are incredibly severe, and the impact would be detrimental not only to the country but also to the global economy. Defaulting on the debt would be like causing a major catastrophe over a relatively trivial issue. Therefore, considering the severity of the consequences, it was expected that a resolution would be reached to avoid such a scenario. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, a respected investor and business magnate, believes that the messaging surrounding the debt ceiling has been poor. He highlights that politicians, agencies, and the press have contributed to the confusion and misunderstanding around the issue. Buffett suggests that although there is a debt ceiling, it will ultimately be raised. He expresses disappointment in the current political environment, where politicians push the situation to the limit for political gain. Buffett questions the necessity of a debt ceiling, as other countries apart from the US and Denmark don't have one and manage their debts without major issues. He invites discussions on whether the US should abandon the debt ceiling. The US debt ceiling crisis has reached a breaking point, posing significant challenges and potential consequences for the nation's economy and financial stability. The ongoing political deadlock and inability to raise the debt ceiling have created a precarious situation with far-reaching implications. As the deadline looms closer and the United States faces the risk of default, the consequences could be severe. A default would likely trigger a significant financial market turmoil, leading to higher borrowing costs for the government, businesses, and individuals. It would also undermine investor confidence in the US economy and the stability of the US dollar as the global reserve currency. The impact would extend beyond domestic borders, with potential global implications. The interconnectedness of the global financial system means that a US default could reverberate throughout international markets, affecting economies worldwide. Moreover, the loss of confidence in the US government's ability to manage its finances could erode its standing as a global economic leader. To avert a crisis, policymakers must prioritize bipartisan cooperation and find a resolution to the debt ceiling crisis through compromise and a commitment to long-term fiscal health. Addressing underlying issues and establishing sustainable fiscal policies require deliberate and responsible decision-making. It is crucial for leaders to prioritize economic stability and the well-being of the American people. Failing to address the debt ceiling crisis can have lasting effects on economic growth, job creation, and overall prosperity. Proactive and collaborative efforts are needed for a stable and prosperous future for the United States. How can we encourage our leaders to prioritize bipartisan cooperation and make responsible decisions to address the debt ceiling crisis effectively? Share your thoughts in the comment section. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell for more updates here on Investify.